everyone. Welcome to Fans of Fandom. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Wesselmann, psychologist, professor, and full-time nerd. On this show, I have deep dive conversations with cool people about things that we're fans of. If you're joining us, chances are you're a fan too. Welcome aboard. Today, I am joined by my friend and colleague, Mr. Victor Dandridge Jr. Victor, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Why, hello, I'm Victor Dandridge, a self-publishing comic creator from Columbus, Ohio. Self-publishing through my imprint, Vantage Announce Productions. I have earned the title of the hardest working man in comics for the myriad of things that I do, from self-publishing to being a phenomenological narratologist, of teaching the art of storytelling through my You Create comic series. I've had the great fortune to work with you, Eric, and the wonderful colleagues over at Illinois State University through ReggieCon and so many different projects. I'm all over the Comic Con world. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, doing all the great things that a comic book fan like me could ever do.
Living the dream.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Superman then in part 3 is called in, and at this point in time, this is where we get into that character of Mitch that Victor mentioned. Goes home. You get a lot of characterization, the drama that he and his family is going through.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of that, ice gets thrown through the window.
Crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
And in comes Doomsday to just tear up this, probably mid to late 30s mother, her teenage son, and the infant baby. And of course, we saw what Doomsday did to the bird. So Superman comes in after having just caught Booster Gold, who was thrown into orbit. Booster Gold then gives him the name Doomsday. Mm-hmm. And I just love this image right here. This is the first official meeting between these two. And nothing to me says unstoppable force meets immovable object.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so brilliant in terms of the storytelling of what this is. And it's funny because Mitch even makes a joke about it. The idea of Superman eating this punch. And Mitch is like, Spud is stupid, so stupid he probably forgot to duck, and the idea here is Superman understands his own power. Mm-hmm. I am the strongest being on Earth, and I'm going to stand here and I'm going to stop this punch because that's what I can do, like without question. And it says so much. You're like, oh, this is a moment. This is powerful. It becomes even more important with how Doomsday responds mm-hmm. to this moment. Doomsday has been punching with the idea that he can break everything that he encounters. Everything that he's done has been destructive. Mm. This is the first time that he's encountered something that he doesn't destroy. It's the first time. What does that do to this malevolent being, this essence that is just so, destroy it all? He's now encountered something that, upon impact, didn't move. Well, now I got to ramp it up. You took that? Cool. Will you take this one? And that next shot destroys a house.
Yes.
Like literally kicks Superman to a point where he gets the air kicked out of him, and you feel, this is so well illustrated. You feel the fact that Superman got the wind kicked out of him. Superman. Like kicked out of him. He flies through a house and the house collapses.
Yeah, no, it's I don't have that image here. So those of you listening who don't have this book, get it now. You read along.
Brilliant.
Yes, yeah. Like Doomsday rears back and just kicks like in a very agile way. Like, I mean, at this point in time, he's just been lumbering, right?
Right.
he just kind of comes up and he just kicks him square in the stomach. And I love that
Yep.
point you make, Victor, about the air kicked out of him, because Superman makes that face that we all have probably made when we got the wind knocked out of us.
Completely.
Um,
And oh my God, it's insane because you feel the absolute power behind Doomsday. And that's the thing, like, it's the juxtaposition of those two pages, because those are two separate pages. You see Superman in his most powerful, and then you see him reduced immediately in response. That's not enough. Okay, well, let me show you what else I can do. Boom. And again, the thing that must be remembered, he is doing all this with his other hand tied behind his back.
yes. So the way you phrase that is just awesome. This idea of Superman being at his strongest and then being reduced, right? Because yeah, he's like, I don't know about you, but when I've felt the wind knocked out of me, right, I feel like as helpless as possible.
Yes.
And we do we see Superman winded? Do we see him ever feel that? No. And
No.
one of the interviews with the creative team, they describe the evolution of Superman's thinking during this, and they note how at the beginning he's a little cocky, actually, right?
Yes, he is.
Superman's like, well, you just threw Greenland, or you just threw Booster Gold into orbit, and he beat the rest of this team, but I'm coming in because whenever Superman comes into the Justice League books, it's always
over. It's done.
Right, yeah. Okay, the writers want me to come in. I've got to come in and save y'all.
Here I am.
But yeah, he just look at that face. I mean, he's just kind of like, all right, yeah, Doomsday, okay. And then you're right, that next panel is him getting the wind knocked out of him. And you got to wonder, like, does he stop and go, oh, what just happened?
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And really, again, the idea of cockiness, there were powerhouses in the Justice League that Doomsday had stomped through already. Okay. Yes. So like, first, okay, the irony that Ice was the last one standing is truly ironic, because she's the lowest in terms of power that we had seen at the time. Like, there have been stories now that kind of illustrate Ice is actually super powerful and very deadly and could cause a lot of problems and just doesn't. But at the time, she was kind of seen as like this wallflower type character. So for her to be the last one standing kind of shows almost, a tenacity, but it also shows the way that Doomsday operates. He's going after the most powerful people. Like, Guy Gardner jumps in, okay, fine, I'm gonna stomp you, guy. Like, that's just what's gonna happen. Oh, there's this big giant bug in the sky where I'm gonna take that apart, and the guy that was flying it, I'm gonna beat half to death because I can. Maxima, Bloodwind, like, he handles both of them. Again, one hand behind his back. And then you have Booster Gold, who, again, super strong. His suit has all these different abilities. He goes and cold cocks him and sends him flying to the point where Superman has to catch him on the way. Like, and mind you, for those of you that don't know, where the Justice League fight is taking place is in Ohio. Superman was filming in New Jersey. That's where Metropolis is. So he gets aware of this fight, takes off, and catches Booster somewhere between Ohio and New Jersey. So possibly somewhere in Pennsylvania. Who knows? That's the scale of this. And, he's like, he's making jokes. I hear you people are having some trouble. Sir, that is not some trouble. We just got monkey stomped by this thing. And yeah, we need some help. And again, Superman learns very quickly, Doomsday is not to be trifled with.
Yeah. So you've hinted at this twice now, or reminded us that Doomsday isn't walking around with one hand tied behind his back.
One hand.
So they when after Superman recovers a bit and realizes, yeah, exactly, we shouldn't take him for granted. They all agree to collectively empty their energy weapons, either technical or biological, into Doomsday. So
Yes.
until they almost are all exhausted, actually, yeah, Fire completely exhausts her powers, and it takes her a while to get it back. Booster Gold depletes all of his energy cells. Even Superman gets tired. And then not only is Doomsday standing, but we get this reveal as he comes out. We get this close-up of his face, the first we've seen of his face in the comics, right? There were some early images in the trade press, but this is the first time you see him with this icy blue eye, this grin, these spikes, and then he goes, "Oh, by the way, I know something you don't know. My hands are free." And then it pulls out to this splash page. And I mean, just like, I mean, I don't even know where to start with the splash page, right? You get the choking. Go ahead.
Right? I mean, he's fighting 5 people at once right now. One of them being Superman. Yes. And he is cold cocked Superman with his now free hand, which makes you believe like maybe Doomsday is right-handed. He's been doing this to these guys left-handed, and he's actually a right-handed guy because this punch that he gives Superman knocks him. I mean, Superman can fly, and he's knocked off his feet. He just runs forward, like tramples guy, stomps on Fire, pushes past Blood with like this is raw, just power. But I want to go back and ask you a question.
Yeah.
When they decide to collectively use their power to bring him down, are they trying to kill him? I feel like they're trying to kill him.
Well, and see, I mean, this is interesting because are they thinking that coherently? Right? I mean, this probably all took place, these things, like within a minute to 4 minutes, right? And they just have seen brutality, and like they've seen him take everything they could do. So maybe they assume that this will just knock him down,
knock him out. I mean,
or maybe
Superman's heat vision is no joke, right? Like his heat vision can laze a gun, right? Like, I mean, we've seen that in stories where bad guy's holding a gun, he uses heat vision and it heats up so hot the person has to drop it. He just unleashed heat vision on Doomsday. Fire is there, unleashing her abilities. Bloodwind has his eye, psionic blast. Booster is shooting, with his blast. Guy is shooting. Like, at some point you got to go, are we trying to kill him? Are we aiming to kill him right now?
So I will operate under the assumption that if that thought exists, it's very, I hate to use the word, unconscious. It might be there somewhere, but I don't think that's at the forefront of their mind. I think the forefront of their mind is, we just got to do something or we're all going to die. It's fight or flight, and just got to stop. We just got to put him down no matter what it takes, and we'll think about the consequences later. So that I'm going to operate on the idea that at this stage, it's all reflex.
It's a desperation of sorts.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Well,
but
he's still standing.
Yep. Well, we know Guy actually would, at least based upon what he says. I don't know if he's ever actually killed anyone up till this point, right? But I mean, he makes a couple of cracks about killing the guy, or putting him in a pine box, or he actually says before Doomsday, like, takes him down.
I'm gonna put you in a pine box.
Yeah, exactly. Cremation or burial, what do you want?
Yeah. He's already saying, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
Well, again, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but that leans to the rogue nature of Guy Gardner.
Yes.
Which, does he mean it, or is he just talking in that way?
Well,
hard to say. Like
Superman later, when Superman takes a brief break after he's put Doomsday in the ocean, or the floor of a river or something, he does say to Superman as he's being rolled away in a gurney, "You better put him in a pine box." I honestly think that Guy there is serious.
I believe that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think Guy, having experienced a fight with Doomsday twice at this point, is like, this is not someone that you can just beat up. This is not that type of villain. You don't repel him. You have to kill him. Mm-hmm. You are the only one strong enough that can do this. Right. You need to do it. Okay, here we go.
Good.
Here we go. I'm gonna geek out on you. I'm gonna geek out on you. And this clearly wasn't a thought process at the time, but considering what we see happen in Hunter Prey, mm-hmm. this would have been a moment for Guy to give Superman his ring. And I think that would have been, like, again, in terms of a retroactive, like, oh my gosh, this would have been the thing. Those would have been the moments that I would have written in, that Guy Gardner, as he's telling Superman, you need to put him in a pine box, would have given him his ring and be like, here, you need all the help you can get.
Yes.
But you got to put this thing down.
Yes.
Like, you have to. This is not a take your Boy Scout mentality, put that aside. This thing, you need to put this down now. And that would be like the last thing I would have Guy Gardner tell him. And what an interesting moment for Superman, because, you know, I'm Superman. And as he reflects on what just happened, I would have him go, swoop, and put that ring on and go. Like, he's absolutely right. I need this. I need it.
Well, and that's, you know, we're jumping through continuities and retconning a bit, but the accordion rings, right, are in the Jeff Johns Green Lantern, are powered by fear.
Yes, they are. And yes, they are.
So Superman would then have to sort of acknowledge his own fear.
He's afraid right now,
and use that to power the.
Yes. Oh. Come on, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun? Where you're just like, you know, the idea that Superman has to acknowledge that this thing scares him. He's never experienced this before, and it scares him, and that's why this ring is working. Let's go. Yes.
Yes. No, that needs, you know, if a DC writers aren't listening to this, if they are, yeah, please.
Here you go. Please, and thank you.
We're gonna fanfic this, right?
Exactly. That's headcanon. That's headcanon from now on. From now on. Yeah. Because especially if something crazy happens where Superman is trying to use the ring and Doomsday breaks it, and now he's even more afraid because now I don't even have the ring anymore. Like, there's so many levels to this that, again, up the value of the monstrosity that is Doomsday. Doomsday breaks a ring. Now he's even more dangerous because you're like, well, how do you break a ring? Like, you can't do. He did it.
Yep.
He did it. And now you're like, oh, snap. Doomsday, like, in that regard, you put it so that he breaks the ring and the ring can't go to him and go, you have the opportunity or the capacity to instill great fear. Congratulations, you're part of the Sinestro. It's gone. He's broken it. It doesn't even get the opportunity to do that. Like, yes. Oh, sorry. That's a geek out.
Oh my God.
Get out of the weeds. Get out of the weeds.
Yeah, let's get out of that because I really like that idea. Want to keep going. We'll bring it back in.
Okay, yeah. Okay, reel it. Okay.
So let's go to the end of this this issue, actually.
Yes.
Because this brings it back to Mitch, right? This is the human drama. These are the human casualties, right? Now, to be fair, had Superman and the Justice League not been there, they'd be dead, right? I mean, like, you could argue, someone might argue that, well, the Justice League in their fight ended up in this path. But let's be clear, if no one was there, Doomsday would have just eventually walked around and killed everything anyway.
Yeah.
So, because we've already established that, not even going into what we know, having read many years forward to the other Doomsday stories.
Right.
Just in what we've been given at this point, he lives to kill anything and everything, right?
Yes.
So, so we see Superman going after Doomsday, and we see Mitch, who at this point in time he and his family are trapped separately within the burning remains of their house. And he realizes Superman is the only one that can save him. So he's yelling to him And of course, we have two different things going on here that I experienced. First of all, we see Superman in his mind going through what we might call in philosophy and the psychology of morality a trolley problem, right? Like, do I save, do I save this one person, or do I let them die to save more people?
Right.
And
it's a hero's conundrum every time.
Exactly. And so I think probably at one level, that's how most readers experience this. It's certainly how I experienced it the first 15 times I read this story.
Mm-hmm.
What occurs to me this time, though, is that last panel there at the end, where he's just begging, and it like, whereas he's screaming in the previous speech bubbles, right, we see from the shapes, here it's just weak. It's almost like he's whispering helplessly. Remember that this story is being written largely to tell people you've taken Superman for granted, because when they announced to the world this was going to happen, lots of people were pissed off. And calling up DC, all these, like, how could you do this? And
how could you do this? You're killing my childhood.
Exactly. And Mike Carlin in several different interviews said, well, why weren't you buying his books then? Right? where were you if you cared about it so much?
What happened?
Right. And if we run the simulation that Mitch is a stand-in for comics readers in the Dark Age, attracted to the Guy Gardners, attracted to the rogues, the antiheroes, he is now realizing, Superman, you're leaving, and I need you. Right. And that's what we as an audience are going to experience for another 8 months of storytelling. So that was how I experienced this. Victor, feel free to riff on any of that.
No. I think that hits even harder. And again, there is something very telling about me being from Ohio, right? And reading this, because clearly this is taking place in Ohio. And I am this, essentially a Midwestern preteen who has no real following of Superman. I'm not buying the books. And so this was me. This was me. They're talking to me about me, like they're showing the mirror to my face. And the interesting part is I'm here, like I hear you, right? Like I am the actual response that they were wanting, because they're like, well, you don't care, so we're going to take them away. And here I come. I'm running to comics in this moment. So I've always identified with Mitch's story very personally, right? Like there was something about it that just felt so very real to me. I had the situation where my parents were divorced, and there were times where there were things that were better at my dad's house than at my mom's house, and feeling any certain kind of way about that. At 8 years old, 9 years old, my little sister was born. And so, I'm older, I've got a little sister, like there are so many correlations that line up for me. Like I said, I've always identified with Mitch. The part that got me was when he realized that who he had idolized wasn't good enough. That he goes through the Justice League members and it's like, he took out Fire, Ice, Booster Gold, the Blood Guy, even Guy Gardner. The only guy that's standing is the guy that I was making fun of. The only one that's still possibly available who took off after him. Like Doomsday jumps away, and the guy that I was roasting as some idiot, not cool, old man hero is the only guy left standing and actually going after this monster. And in this moment, I need him. And I'm going to call for him. Because as much as I was a cynic, I know he'll come. I know I can count on him. What an incredible surrender, right? Like all this machismo that Mitch had, and he was willing to acknowledge by his own actions, I need to surrender. I'm wrong. I am wrong. I was all this and yeah, this is the way. Nope. I need a hero. I need a hero right now. Superman, help. please come help. And as Superman is like, he's weighing it, right? Because he's like, I've got to stop this thing. If I don't stop this thing, what more can happen? But someone needs my help. And I'm going to go. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn around. And I think the thing that makes this particular moment interesting, especially, is the 2002-2003 story that is framing about the other victims that occur during this. This is one story where Superman went back. You know, this is the one time in his focus towards Doomsday that he goes, okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna do this. And I honestly think that, again, moving forward, some of the reasoning why Superman aims to stick with Doomsday and not move back off is because the rest of the destruction that occurs, he feels that responsible for it. If I didn't go back, I could have possibly put him down earlier. And so I gotta stay with him. I gotta stay on him. And I almost become so focused on, I can't help other people. I can't be Superman right now. I have to just stop that.
Interesting, because I think I like that, and I think there another potential thought he could have going on in his head, right? That is complementary to this idea of guilt, is that we see a lot of destruction up till this point in time, but we don't see Doomsday physically kill a lot of people.
Right.
You could assume through wreckage and stuff, and I think, but like Superman looks through the car wrecks, and he's like, oh, I see the EMTs are on their way, right? The subsequent issues, the closer he gets to Metropolis, the more we start seeing him kill people by hand, like breaking their necks, punching them, and exploding blood, right? Like the violence gets so much more ratcheted up, and the fatalities, right? So here, Superman really hasn't seen any of that. He's seen what Doomsday did to the Justice League and the massive property, but he didn't see the trail of bodies that we're told, right? I mean, it's possible between but in the gutters he may have
that he understood, right?
Yeah, but I think he understands it cognitively here that we see in this his face, but I'm going to posit that he learns it viscerally, and running your hypothesis of feelings of guilt, those two things would just feed off each other
heavily, and go further into his determination to put Doomsday down permanently. Yes, because and we kind of like danced around it when Superman killed before, and he killed a version of General Zod. This was in 1988, so right at the pinnacle of what you're talking about in terms of the Iron Age. They had Superman kill somebody, and it was a justifiable killing as he saw it. 3 Kryptonians that were evil had beat him up already, and he gets away from them and returns to where they are in this pocket dimension with kryptonite, and exposes them to kryptonite to kill them, because they promised that if they get out, they're going to find where he is and they're going to kill everybody. And he was like, I can't stop them. Like, there's 3 of them as powerful as I am. I can't stop that. I have to approach this judiciously and go, you know what? I believe you. You're saying that if you get out of here, you're going to kill everyone that I know. I believe you. And because I believe you, I'm going to do this to stop you. And this is my justification. And story-wise, it definitely had an impact on him. He left Earth for a while. He grew a beard. It was crazy. There was a lot of things that happened. And then we get this return, and he's almost in that place again. I think that's the one thing that, again, okay, so continuity-wise, I would have that be a reference point of he is now, like, he's trying not to go to that place, but he ends up, like, emotionally, psychologically going back to what it felt like when he decided to kill Zod. that's what I have to be to this.
Mhm.
I can't let this, like, is this from Zod? Like, did I make, like, what? There's all kinds of fun things that could be played with. That's where if I could build a larger continuity, that's what would happen. He would question whether or not this is Zod. You know, what is this? Is this what happens when you're exposed to kryptonite for a while? I don't know. I've never seen it. Is that what this is? What do I like? Yeah, I would marry all of that just to give that emotional core of desperation that he feels watching all this stuff happen, because he's losing control. Like, Superman is losing control. I'm not just showing up and stopping this thing. At best, I'm getting in the way, or I'm trying to stop him from killing more people, and that's the best I can do, is stop him from killing more. What a horrible idea for Superman to embrace.
Yeah, because he's used to saving almost everybody.
Everybody. And
Yeah.
you always get the Lex Luthor argument, oh, you can't be everywhere at once. He doesn't even have to be everywhere at once. This is one place that he has to be, and he's still not strong enough to just stop it. And that's not, he's not accustomed to that. Not accustomed to that at all, which is why this story is so damn good.
Right, and we haven't even gotten halfway through just the fight, right? This is just one day.
At
less
all.
than 24 hours.
It's still early on. This is still early on. They've only been fighting, like, he's only fought Doomsday for like half an hour at this point. Like 20 minutes maybe. Like, it's nothing.
Yes,
Absolutely nothing.
That's true. In part 4, Adventures of Superman 497, we have this moment, right? So at this point in time, Maxima, who had left the battle begrudgingly to take Blue Beetle, who had been beaten into a coma, to the hospital to save his life, she returns, right? And so she catches up with Doomsday and Superman, and in their fight, a gas station pump is ruptured, and she picks up a lamp pole, just being cavalier like Guy Gardner might, right? I mean, in many ways, they also were at odds, but Superman and Maxima also have various different philosophical arguments while they're on the same team because of their approach to battle. Sparks come out and it ignites. Now, what we have here, and there's multiple ways that we can unpack this, but I'll start with the one that I really want to get why I picked this, and I wanted to really pick your brain on this, Victor. Right. In the panel before this, we had established that there were 3 characters: Doomsday, Maxima, Superman. In this explosion with the silhouettes, it's obvious who is whom, right? Just from the black silhouettes. Why do you think they chose to have the S shield? Because it wouldn't show up like that,
right?
In reality, right? So tell me about that.
It's graphically cool. There is not a narrative. It's graphically cool. That's all. There's not, like you said, there's not a narrative reason or rationale that they would have to. Doesn't exist. Like you said, you can clearly identify everyone as they are, but it's graphically interesting to do that with Superman's S, because and there's a couple of things that you could have, like, you could have done it with Maximus' hair. It's red as well. You could have just created an outline for that. But with the S, the way that it's positioned on the silhouette, it creates this graphic piece that you can actually see, because they don't do it with the cape, because again, the way that is graphically, it's not as interesting. You would have to be more linear by capturing both the hair and the cape, because they're on the outside, they're contour pieces. That's what that would be. But the S is this internal piece that is almost like a negative shape sort of thing, or negative space sort of thing. And by excluding it in the silhouette, yes, it helps you identify the character, but it just visually looks interesting. And that is art. More so than narrative, it's art, because it looks cool. It's aesthetically something sound with no other rationale other than, yeah, I can do that, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Because immediately we go into regular color tones, right? It's actual representational tones after that. This is a moment. This is a graphic design moment. You know, we're articulating what this explosion felt like. You know, and in that regard, that's why you have these pieces, you know, illustrated the way that they do. You have the sound effect carrying throughout the entire panel, the way that it does, and it's grounded really well as a design choice. Like, this is just a great illustration.
It strikes me, or when I read it as a kid, right, even now, and we've talked about sort of the two iconic images being Superman's tattered cape and the bloody S shield. So the shield, even though it's not bloody here, for me, that's how I resonated to this. And then this time around, look at his cape, right? So this is where the first time we see his uniform start to be damaged. And at this point in time, it's only the cape, right? The other thing that I'll point out here, going back to the full page on the left, right, is we have 4 panels there, even though they kind of overlap a little bit. That particularly those bottom 3 are technically one overall moment, just with gutters, you know, sort of bisecting it for timing purposes. It usually is how most comics scholars read that. This was the issue where they began. This, of course, was that final 4, right? The grudge match, where the covers were just Superman and Doomsday. And starting with this issue, every page was set up to have the same number of panels. They could be organized differently, but it was 4.
They had the same number.
And then the next issue, it was 3. Then 2, all leading up to Superman 75, where Dan Jurgens was like, I just want to do an entire book of splash pages.
Amazing.
Yeah, so viewers at home, keep an eye on that as we actually go to part 5. This is after Superman continues to fight with Doomsday, because Maxima is knocked out after that explosion. Right. Superman continues on alone into something called Habitat, which is this sort of unpopulated area that's built above a top secret scientific installation called Cadmus. We'll talk a lot about Cadmus in future episodes.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. But here, Guardian, who is one of the Metropolis space heroes who sort of centered at works at the Cadmus Project, he finds Superman, who had basically been knocked out for a bit. In the collapse of Habitat, Doomsday leaves and Superman is unconscious. He comes to, which I love, if you look at what's it called, the tail of the speech balloon, the carrier, is that what it's officially called?
Yes.
Yeah, the carrier. You contrast Superman's carrier with Guardian's, and it's wavy, right? And then in subsequent pages, it becomes more like Guardian's, more rigid. But as he gets more exhausted throughout some of the next issues, it gets wavy.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But the other thing that I really caught me about this is we see Superman's tattered cape. We see a couple holes in his costume. It's the first time we see this, which, remember, up till this point in time, post Crisis of Infinite Earths, they wrote it into the continuity that Superman's invulnerability is a field that's sort of around his skin,
like an aura.
And so the closer the clothes are to him, right, then they're going to be invulnerable too.
Exactly.
So what we're seeing here is, as his powers get exhausted, right, the cape goes, and then the costume goes, and then his body starts to go, right? He hasn't bled yet, but look at his face. His eyes,
he's bruising. Yeah, he's swelling up. Yeah. The scuff on his lip, like it's this fight is taking its toll. And I think that's the interesting part is Superman keeps showing up and getting knocked down.
Mhm.
Like keeps happening. Like this isn't like in no real points does Superman get like a win. You know what I mean? Like this isn't one of those kind of fights where like, oh, I got you a little bit. Oh, I got to go do this thing. Doomsday is kicking the crap out of him.
Mhm.
And the thing that works is that Superman's still willing to get up, right? He as soon as he gets up, he goes right back after him. But it's not really a help. Like at best, he's maybe heating off just a little bit of destruction that Doomsday might do with, you know, if he wasn't there. But every time he shows up, Doomsday just kicks the snot out of him.
Right.
And that's it.
To make another 90s reference, which happened a little bit later in the 90s, he gets knocked down, but he gets up again.
He gets up again. You're never going to keep him down. Oh, Danny boy. I'm sorry.
Now we got to be careful. We go too much more and we're going to get hit with
right. Then we get sued. So you're right.
Then we go to part 6, where now we're
Yes.
down to 2 panels a page.
Mhm.
Of course, I'm just pulling out the specific panels here I want to talk about. Here is where we get First Blood.
Yes.
Not really sure where the holes in his costume went, but we still got the holes in the cape. But yeah, First Blood. And then in that dialogue box, which is sort of narration in its format, right? This is a holdover from the previous page, which is Pa and Ma Kent talking. And they're, dealing with the fact that they're watching their son get beaten to death, right?
Yes. Yes.
And all the media circus around it is just, making jokes or treating it like every other Superman comic book where we know he's going to turn out okay in the end. Right. And so, yeah, you get Pa saying they don't think anything bad can really happen to him. You then get that with Superman's inner monologue. Better finish this quick if I'm going to live to finish it at all. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first moment. First of all, we don't get a lot of his internal monologue up till now because he's fighting, but where his actual mortality seems to dawn on him, corresponding with First Blood.
I think there's a brilliant totality to this page, because you going back, you have Mom and Pa Kent having this discussion where, and it's kind of this brilliant sort of start to finish thing. Superman's life begins when Pa and Ma Kent find him, right? And so them watching the build up to his death, right? And they have this starting point, that's our son. He's being beaten to a pulp, and those TV reporters are treating it like entertainment. They are the first ones to realize how dangerous this could be, even before Clark himself realizes it. Before he acknowledges, like, if I'm gonna finish this, I got to do this quick. It's his parents that are, his first cheerleaders, his biggest cheerleaders, the ones who found him, the ones who raised him, are the first ones that go, this ain't looking good. We've seen him at his weakest when he had no powers and we just pulled him out of a spaceship. We've seen him at his strongest. This isn't good. This ain't it. This is bad. And for all Martha can do is to shake her fist at the reporters, like they're treating it like entertainment. And Jonathan's like, they don't understand what they're seeing. They've never seen this before. Our boy has been able to beat everything he's gone up against. We're the only ones that look at him like a human because we understand, like, we raised him. We know, like, if he can feel like us, if he can breathe like us, if he can learn like us, that he can die like us. It might take a lot, but it could happen. And this is the first time that they're like acknowledging it. That's why he says they don't think anything bad can really happen to him. They don't, like, Jonathan doesn't speak for them and say, we know that he'll be fine. We know, like, he's like, they don't think. In this moment, he is acknowledging, we think he could die. And so does Clark. Like, in that moment now, his parents have acknowledged it, and now so can he, because this is how real that is. From the outside, like, his very first fans can see it, so can he. That makes this very real. This is the page that goes, he's going to die. This is not a pithy title. This is not a pithy sort of, or clever, cheeky, oh, we're gonna call this the death of Superman, but he's gonna die. Right. This is the page that says it. He's gonna die.
And that, there's so much that I'd love to unpack. I love everything you pointed out there. One of the things that occurs to me as you're talking about the evolution of the Kent's realization, of Superman's realization. We as an audience, though, we're not on this journey. I mean, we kind of are on this journey with them, but we aren't in the same way. Right. Because from the moment that we pick up, that first Man of Steel issue where Doomsday is unleashed, we know where this is ending, right? So in sort of a Hitchcock perspective, this is suspense, right? Because we know, we have privileged knowledge that the characters don't. Right. And so, in a horror movie when we're watching, we generally know who's going to die and more or less about when, right? It's the characters, they get this jump scare, they get the fear, the shock. The audience gets the suspense, right? And so that's kind of an interesting thing here too, because it's possible that there were maybe some fans reading this who thought, no, this is just a gimmick. I would be curious to find out, even given everything that we've shown in this podcast, right? True. All of the different marketing, really, there still probably is at least a few people who think, nah, at the last minute,
it's not. He's gonna pull through. It's gonna be fine,
right? Or he'll die in like 3 pages left, and then the last 2 pages, the Deus Ex Machina will come in.
It was a dream. It was
right. Or Miracle Max will come in those last couple pages.
Exactly.
And it'd be like,
Makes you Spitlick comes in and is like, no, I changed my mind.
Yep. Yeah. He's only mostly dead.
To Blade. Exactly. Oh.
Last panel that I have from this issue, the penultimate issue, is here, which is the last one of this issue. So it's the ultimate panel of the penultimate issue, where they get locked in this amazing, like, I don't even know how this works. Like, I'm not a martial artist, never really been in a fight, so it's hard for me to wrap my mind around some of these poses, but I'm just like trying to think of the mechanics of how this even works. But you've got like blow to blow, Superman's bleeding, Doomsday does not bleed, right. He may not, as they flesh out the character later on, he doesn't really have blood as far as we know, right. But I mean, look at that punch to his gut. I mean, like, there's give there.
Yeah.
Like, I half expect Superman to come back out and be like, here's your spleen.
But it'll just grow back and you're like, oh, okay. Okay, so here's the other thing to look at this. When you call this the penultimate, the true essence of the story that's taking place is showcasing this, because Superman and Doomsday are both being shot at by the police officers, the extra, I can't even think what they're called now, SCU. So they're like, Superman is like, the SCU is there to shoot Doomsday, like that's their goal. Superman is in the mix and he's like, shoot anyway. Like, it can't matter that I'm here. I've got to, like, we've got to stop him. And I get it. Like, you guys are, maybe you're a nuisance, maybe you'll distract him, something, so I can get these blows in. But he has centered himself in the midst of this battle, taking damage from an external, like a friendly, like he's taking friendly fire right now.
You're right, yeah.
Just so he can get close enough to handle this fight. And he ultimately outwardly voices, your rampage ends here, Doomsday, even if it kills me.
Right.
I'm going to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yes.
This is determination right here. Boom. This is where it gets real.
It's almost, it's an assertion, whereas in the previous panel I have here on the page, it's sort of like I think it might happen. I don't know, maybe, but now it's
I don't know.
Yeah.
Even if this is the way this is going down, I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't put together the friendly fire before, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
Gosh.
Because I mean, like look at that. Like he's in the midst of it, right? Because that's the thing. Like you kind of focus on the fight itself, but the peripheral aspects, the action that's happening, like these guys are just shooting.
Yeah.
Like he's just in the way. And he's still fighting, even though they're probably pelting him, shooting him, and he's just got to shrug off what they're doing, but hoping that what they do is powerful enough to hurt Doomsday.
Yeah.
Wow. My partner is real keen. She's very much so a Lex Luthor supporter. Doesn't believe that Superman is actually a hero. Because in many cases he's not at risk of anything, right? This is the story that she gives pause to. She's like, well, except when he's fighting Doomsday, because throughout this entire venture, Doomsday has mopped the floor with him, and Superman still goes to fight him. And I think there's something, again, powerful about this story that takes someone who is generally like, I'm not a Superman fan, I agree with the other guy, but looks at it and goes, but in this circumstance, he now becomes a hero because he's risking everything. Like any other time, he's not really risking anything. Here, he's definitely risking. And you see it grow in heroism throughout the whole series as he loses more and more of his invulnerability, more and more of his tact, his poise, and to a degree his mercy. Like he's when it comes to Doomsday, he is losing mercy consistently through this whole thing. Even he's talking about, I gotta put you down. Like he's saying everything, but I'm gonna kill you. It's how he's describing what he's gonna do, but he's not saying it. But that's exactly what he's growing more and more and more succinct. Even if it kills me, I'm gonna kill you because I have to.
What's interesting too is that you bring up Lex Luthor. We don't really get we get bits of Luthor as these issues get closer. And in this issue in particular, I think also I believe it's this issue where Supergirl who's working with she's romantically partnered with Lex Luthor II, who's actually the original Lex Luthor, but because of a cloning
it's his brain. They saved Luthor's brain.
We'll talk about that little bit of soap opera drama. Another episode. She finally goes. He finally sends her off. She keeps wanting to, and he keeps telling her to stay because he also doesn't really believe that anything bad can happen to Superman. Right? I would love to, in an alternate story, see the two of them have, like, I would bet that if anything could get Luthor and Superman to work together, it would be Doomsday. Right. I mean, like I'm sure they wouldn't like it, but I think they could probably be like, no, let's put our stuff aside because this doesn't work for anybody.
This if we don't handle this, there is no fight between us.
Yes.
There is nothing for us to fight with. I want to point out that this brief interaction with Supergirl, it is my second most violent thing that I've ever seen in a comic.
Yes.
So, okay, mind you, I'm not a comic book reader. So I don't have an understanding of this proto form Supergirl. I didn't
You're
know that
talking
that's
young Victor.
yeah, young Victor has no understanding that this isn't Supergirl.
Hmm.
So when he does this, and I don't want to give it away to anyone that's never read it, you just have to experience this for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But when he does this, I believe I almost got in trouble when I read this because I definitely shouted an expletive because I had never seen anything like that before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That is no. And I mean, he's fought other shapeshifters, which we will understand later on as the story, plays out. He's never hit them like that, where they lost total control. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the, like, when she lands, I'm like, I don't even know what just happened to her.
Right.
Oh my God. Like, if you hit a Kryptonian, does that happen? Like, I had no understanding of what this moment was, but wow, did it shock me.
That's true, because my experience up to this point in time, in my head, Supergirl was his cousin, the Kryptonian.
Right.
I didn't, this was my first introduction to the new Supergirl. We will talk about once again more in Funeral. Just like Lois becomes really the main, one of the two main characters in Funeral.
Yeah.
It's really Lois and Supergirl. Funeral for a Friend really is their story.
It's them. So, yeah.
And the Kents too, right? So
yeah. Definitely the Kents. Yeah. But oh my God, that moment, it still makes me a little queasy.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, oh no, that's not okay.